Kathleen. Hi, good to see so many of you here this afternoon on a Friday afternoon. Thanks for spending your time to join me, but I know you're not here for me, you're here for Kathleen. But I am going to just share a few pieces of information with you before we get started. We're going to go really quickly. So we don't have time for a lot of questions because I think we have a lot to cover, but let me just show you a few slides because hang on one second. All right. Okay, I am very excited about our new logo for MiMath reform. Isn't it cute? Hang on. And I just want to give you a little bit of context. I'm Jenny Schenker. I think that I know most of you. I recognize your names, but if I don't know you, if I haven't met you before, I am the Senior Director of Learning and Research at the Michigan Community College Association. Really excited to be kicking off this new initiative supporting math faculty and college teams making the transition to new approaches to placement and delivery of developmental education. I'm going to start with some things that we are going to offer from the Michigan Center for Student Success in terms of communication and resources. And I'm going to put some links in the chat after I finish quickly going through these 3 slides. But there is a link to sign up for math reform updates. This is our new strategy at the MCCA. We have we discovered that Constant Contact allows you to create opt-in mailing lists, and so we're creating them all over the place. Very excited to have that functionality, and so I would encourage all of you to go to MiMath Reform Updates and sign up. Again, I'll put that link in the chat in just a couple of minutes. You'll receive ongoing general updates about MiMath Reform and other support for Gateway Mathematics. And you'll also get a link to an intent to participate form to fill out if your college plans to send a team to the upcoming intensive and accelerator workshops this year and next year that Kathy is going to describe. I'm also creating a MiMath Reform webpage. I ran out of time to finalize that, to send that to you today, but once you sign up for the updates, you will receive a link to that page when it is complete. Something else that I wanted this group to know about, and I think it's going to be relevant to some of the conversation today, is that the state of Michigan has designated funding for colleges to create what they're calling academic catch-up programs. Essentially, these are boot camp programs that are intended to address learning loss for students, high school students who were impacted by the pandemic, the disruptions to their learning. So that's the primary intended audience of the academic catch-up program, but it is open to all students. So basically it's funding, and it's fairly substantial funding for colleges to run a boot camp program in summer of 2023, which includes developmental instruction in English and mathematics. It has to be offered free of charge to students. It has to provide a comprehensive kind of set of wraparound services, including funding for classroom supplies, computers, etc. Also address basic needs such as transportation, food security, things like that. Again, it has to be free. It provides, support for college knowledge and, how to get financial aid and how to enroll, things like that. Students who complete the program have to be able to enroll in college level English or mathematics, or either with or without co-requisite support in the fall. So once a student has completed the program, they are no longer eligible to be enrolled in any standalone developmental courses. So that's one of the caveats. There's an application online. It's due on January 31st. We just did a webinar about this. I know that some of you were there earlier this week, and colleges, that we've shared this pretty broadly, and we have five colleges who have applied so far, so that's exciting. But I want you to know about this in the context of the conversation that we're going to hear today about options and the way that the recommended ways to work with reforming your developmental math or reforming your math delivery. And then I'm just throw this out here, and I'm going to warn you right in advance that I'm not going to take a lot of questions about this. But I did want to make sure that all of you were aware that the Reconnect Act was amended last year at the end of the lame duck session and signed by the governor early in 2023. And so that's and I've talked to many of you and many of your colleagues about the possibility that this legislation would pass, and now it did. And that the gist of it is that for Michigan Reconnect students, there are no longer 3 options for offering support and for offering accelerated support for math and English. Co-requisite is the only allowable model for Michigan Reconnect students. And then you can offer additional remediation programs as long as they are a supplement and not an alternative to the co-requisite program. As long as you're able to articulate an evidence-based rationale for the program that you're offering in your annual report, and that the additional remediation program is offered at no charge. So those are the kind of the big, there's other changes in the Reconnect program, and we're working with the Leo and the Office of 60 by 30 to put together hopefully a town hall on this, as they are, so that we can have them and us, and then we can take all your questions at that point. But I wanted you to be aware that this has happened, and the date is August 1st, so that implies the fall semester, that you need to have transitioned to fully co-requisite. So if you have not done that yet, this is your heads up that has happened. And now, with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen. If you want to enter questions in the chat, I'll take note of them and try to respond to you offline, either with a phone call or an email. But again, I don't have, this is the information that I have right now about Reconnect. And so that's what I'm sharing with you today. And now I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to put those links in the chat that I said to the Academic Catch-Up Program and to the sign-up sheet.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Kathy Almy, and let me load up my slides. And my goal today is to help you understand why I'm here, why I'm going to be talking to you, and how we can make this process of putting this legislation into place, make it a whole lot less painful. Okay, so I want to tell you about, and I will have, Jan is going to give the links again to at the end. So if you're like, I'm not sure if I want to participate yet, don't worry. You'll be getting the links again later if you decide, later today, if you think about it, you're like, yeah, I think we should do this. But first, I just want to explain who I am, what we're doing, and why you might want to join us in this work. Okay, so let me. Well, hang on a second. Let me get my slides where I want them to be, and then I will. Okay, so can you guys see Google Slides? Yay, okay. Now let's actually, still showing? Okay, all right. Hi, everyone. Okay, so yes, my name is Kathleen Almy, but you can just call me Kathy. And I want to tell you first off who I am, why I'm here. Some of you I know, there's lots of names here I know. I'm in Illinois, first off. So, and I've spoken at MiMath 2 different times. I was a keynote speaker. Actually, and the most recent time was this past fall. But I've known lots of math faculty in Michigan through MiMath, our national organization. And there's just a lot of similarities between our states in how they operate. And probably some of you know, well, I cannot think of his name. I just had a block at Lansing. I don't know why I'm having a block with his name, but that's terrible. I can't believe that's old age for you.
Are you talking about Jack?
Yes, thank you, Jack. Oh my God, Jack Rotman. That was my main connection. I think my first connection, and Maria Anderson, who I talk to every single week, who used to be at Muskegon. So, but Jack Rotman and I, we worked together on national math pathways starting in 2009. So worked with him on, I can't believe my brain went blank. Wow, it's Friday. Okay, so just a quick bit about me. So if you're wondering like, why should, like, why am I even here? Like, what can I help you with? Okay, so my background is I was community college math professor. I've taught 25 years, over 20 of those were in higher ed. I still teach part-time, but I will tell you, I am not teaching part-time this semester or probably any time this year because I have decided to finish my doctorate. I had paused it for a little bit. I'm coming back and now I'm finishing it. And I'm just trying not to overload myself, but my first love is the classroom, and I will continue to teach after I complete that. I've been involved in developmental ed reform. It's always been a passion of mine, and I started working on it in 2007. I always was looking at like what we're offering and thinking, okay, could this be better or smaller or faster? Are there ways that we can do this where we're serving students, but not exactly how we're doing? And boy, has a lot changed since that time. Many, many, many things. But I've worked on all kinds of things and initiatives, led several initiatives, and worked with lots of faculty all over the country. I have written a textbook. I'm not here to sell you a textbook, but that should tell you how much I love developmental math and how much I believe in it. The textbook is to support a more activity-based approach to teaching developmental. So I very much believe that we have students who need more support. How can we support them in different ways? So I want you to know this today, because a lot of you are faculty and you are rightfully probably concerned, like, okay, what does this legislation mean for me? And what's that going to mean for my students? My number one goal when I'm working with schools is that we are finding solutions that work for everybody, including faculty, and you're going to feel good about it mathematically. Because believe it or not, we can still serve these students and bring in developmental concepts, but we're not going to be doing it the way we were, meaning like standalone beginning algebra. That was the way we used to do things. Now your legislation is moving you towards co-requisites, but it doesn't mean that there's some ideas in beginning algebra that are just all going to disappear. They're not. It's how we're offering it, when we're offering it, to whom. All those things are what we change, what we do differently. And I don't want you to get overwhelmed about worrying about that for a second. So just hang tight and I'm going to tell you more about how we do that. I did lead a state level implementation in Illinois for 2 years. So I'm very familiar with working with legislation and working with lots of schools and lots of different competing concerns. And just, I'm used to being in the waters with lots of people who we all care about students, but we come from different perspectives. And my goal when I'm working with schools, you will hear me constantly say this, is I want you to find things you can live with. I don't want anybody to leave feeling like, well, they won and we lost and I hate this. That's never the intent. I want you to be like, okay, I can feel good about this. Because the reality is, and many of you know this, faculty are the constant. We hang around. And it was funny, I had someone just say this to me yesterday. They're like, yeah, I'm just waiting some things out. But that is, that's not unheard of. We are very much the constant in higher education. And I want that once I'm done working with you guys and once things move on, you're still happy with what you have and you feel good about it. And it's something you can continue for years and it works. Okay, so I went into my business almost 4 years ago now, full time, and that's what I run as a consultant for ALMI Education. So what do? We support all kinds of colleges all across the US with projects just like this. I am in the weeds with implementing legislation and mandates every day. So I've been working with 10 colleges in Illinois through a project called Aspire. It's an acronym, and it's about accelerating student progress and increasing racial equity. But I've been working with them as they've been, because Illinois has legislation. I'm getting ready to start with 20 more colleges in Illinois in 2 weeks, because we're just working with more that are dealing with legislation. And then I have all kinds of one-to-one clients. So when I total it up, I think I've got at least 30 schools I'm in contact with, in addition to however many choose to work on this project. So that's not to tell you, oh, yay, I'm awesome. I tell you that because I'm working with lots of colleges, so we see lots of implementations and at all different stages. So if there's an idea and you're like, I'm wondering if we could try this. I've got different schools all doing different things. I can probably tap into, okay, how are you guys doing this? Or what do I see them doing? We can use that information to help each other. That's the benefit of it. And I do subcontract math faculty. I'm not the only person that works in my company. I have math faculty throughout the US that help me with different aspects of the things that we provide to schools. So, and I love it. I really love working on these redesigns. And what's really cool is at the end of every semester, I basically get a report card. I start getting the data in from my clients about like what happened, like in fall. And it's just exciting. There's a lot of good things that came out of fall. So I want you to know, if you're sitting there going, if you're very just apprehensive, I want you to know this can turn out to be something excellent. And I know that sounds overly optimistic, but it's not. It can be true. Okay, this is my ultimate goal. I want you to get your math program to be successful at scale. So I'm guessing if you're like most colleges, you've all done something with your math program to try to improve outcomes with developmental math. Everybody has for years and years and years. The issue is very rarely are we at scale, meaning COREC is the default, say, for your students, or pathways are the default, or whatever intervention you're using. A lot of times what we do is we maintain our feet in two systems. We maintain the old original system with the beginning and intermediate algebra and whatnot. And then we offer like CORECs in addition to it. And it's really hard to do that. It is really hard to schedule students, to advise them. And what happens is that students, advisors, everybody, we gravitate towards what we know, even if it might not be better. People don't try out new things unless they have to. And so what happens is a lot of these efforts at colleges will be like, we can't get anybody to sign up for our co-requisites. We don't know. That's why we can't get to scale. They won't sign up. And it's like, you aren't going to get to scale until you rip the Band-Aid off. That's the reality of it. You have to stop trying to run two parallel systems and go all in. And that's what I help schools do. I know that sounds completely scary, but it doesn't have to be. That's the main thing. I do not want you, and I'm going to have plenty of time for questions. And if you're like, Kathy, I'm not picking up what you're putting down yet, just hang tight. Okay. When I say I want success at scale, it's not just for students. When I'm working with schools, the goal is that administrators, they like what's happening. Student services, who will, by the way, make or break your redesign. You can come up with anything you want in the math department all day long, but if student services isn't on board, it will not happen. So we've got to have them on board, and we've got to have it where it does, it's not crazy in terms of implementation workload. So we have to think about logistics a lot with these different implementations. And it has to work for faculty too. I mean, yes, we want this for students, but it has to work for everybody that touches it, this redesign, or it won't last. It will die out and become, as many of you, if you've taught as long as I have, they're like, oh, remember when we did that thing? Oh yeah, I remember that we did that 10 years ago. It'll just become another one of those things that we did. We don't want that. We want this to work and stick. Okay, so these are the big components that we will be working through. And we do them in a particular order. So for all the math people, a lot of these things are not commutative. We do this in order. And what I do is I walk you through, we're going to do step by step, what are the things you have to do and when. And my job is to guide you. I'm not dictating to you. So if you're like, oh, am I just going to come in and tell you, you all have to do this particular type of co-requisite? I am not going to do that. What I do is I bring in lots of expertise and experience and research and best practices, and I will walk you through activities and help you make decisions. But ultimately, you guys are the ones that are making decisions for your campus. Okay, so here are the 4 phases that we go through and why we're offering something to Michigan. So the first thing when you're starting with a redesign, you have to figure out what is your strategy. Okay, co-recs, that's too broad. What does that mean specifically for your school? Who's going to teach them? How many credit hours? What are we pairing up together? Like all those things. We have to figure out what's our strategy. How are we using placement? Guided self-placement is a big thing in this in the spirit of Michigan Reconnect. So it's like, how do we do that? How do we bring that in? So we have to figure out the strategy first, how we're, what we're going to do, but then you have to move from the what to actually how we make that happen. So it's not just we're going to pick it. We've got to get down to brass tacks, in the weeds, logistics. Who is doing what when to make all of this happen? And one thing you will hear me say often is this is a cross-campus initiative. This is not a math department initiative. When you start touching developmental math, you impact everybody, because there's rarely a program that doesn't have a math requirement. And also every student services area, they are dealing with something related to math requirements. IR, IT, it's just prevalent. Everybody is impacted by this, and it has kind of like a ripple effect. So we want that to not go poorly. We want it to go well. We want other people to know what's going on, and we want it to work. So that means you have to have other people from else, not just the math department, working on this. It's essential. Okay. Once you get all that figured out, what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, then you go to work. You start getting your new courses approved and scheduled, and you put processes into place, and you start changing things in Banner or Colleague or whatever, and start rolling courses out and offering them and teaching these classes. And some things are not going to work. And that's just the reality of it. We never get it perfect, because this is a total, very, very complex thing that you're doing. Lots of moving parts, lots of people, lots of systems. So there's going to be bugs. That's normal. Okay. So the next piece is we look at it and go, okay, what worked? What didn't? So one of the colleges I'm working with right now, they made placement changes. They were working great, but it's the processes right now with their advisors and how they do placement. They're a really small school. It's very clunky, and we're not getting all the right students to benefit from the new things that are available. So we're trying to tighten up those processes. It could be we're doing all of this stuff, but it's still in the classroom. We're not where we want to be with things, or our outcomes still aren't what we want. Whatever. We're going to go through. What do you look at? Where do you make changes? And there is no there, we never get there. We never get done. I remember, I think it was Sam I was talking to when I was at MiMath, and we were talking about how, it was Sam, we were talking about how Ford is, and when they're creating a car, it's never well, we're done. We made the best car that ever was. Let's go home. It's no, you make it, and then you're how can we make this a little better, or this work a little bit better? What could we do with this? You're going to have the big work up front, and that's what I'm here to guide you through. And then you're going to have smaller tweaks over time. Okay, so this is what I am offering. There's no cost to your colleges. I've been contracted by MCCA, and what I'm going to be doing is providing what's called an intensive, and that guides schools through phases 1 and 2, strategize and plan. And then when we're done with that, then we will have the accelerator available to you. So what are these things? And those of you who know me, you're because it's funny, when I came up with these words a long time ago, I was oh yeah, I am intense and I move fast. I'm nice, but I am both of those things. So I'm that's accurate. All right, so what is the intensive? We're gonna do this, our first meeting is next Friday. We're gonna do this towards that. So we're going to finish January, and then we're going to do February and March of this year. We do the intensive. And this is the part where I basically hold your college's hand and walk you step by step through the things you need to do, the decisions you need to make to come up with a strategy and a plan that works for a cross-campus team that you can actually put in action. It's going to meet the law, and it's going to be something that works for your campus. Many of you will have similarities. Probably no two schools will be identical. Okay, and that's fine. But you're definitely gonna have things in common just because of certain things that the law requires, but the executions will look different. Okay, and we're gonna bring in research. So if you're like, I wanna see the articles, fear not, I have them for you. We're gonna bring in the research. We look at best practice. We're gonna look at a variety of things and walk you through that. Nothing extra. The beautiful thing is I've done the intensive so many times with schools. I've learned, oh, we don't need to always talk about this. It always results in this same thing. How could we make that go a little bit quicker for schools? What could we do to make this piece a little faster? I've redesigned my own intensive, actually. I got to the iterate phase and I'm like, how could we make this quicker and easier for schools? And so you will get to benefit from that. It will be perfect, but it will be a lot less painful than just trying to figure it out as you go. Okay, we're going to do that for the first quarter of this year. Then we move into the accelerator. So the accelerator is the part where it's like when you get knee deep into implementation, this thing called real life habits. Probably many of you have families. What you do at your campus is not the only part of your life. You have other things you're doing. You're all busy. And so it gets really hard. Like, okay, we made this plan. We came up with all this. How are we going to put it into place? So the accelerator, what I created this, and this is working really well with schools, is it's just going to be one systems level meeting a month and one classroom level meeting a month. And the idea is we come in, it's a chance for you to catch up with your team. Where are we at? What did we do last month? What are we going to do next month? What do we need help with? And what's cool about all of this is the more colleges that participate, the more we get to crowdsource information. And the different projects I worked on, the crowdsourcing is people's favorite part. It's like, I don't have to try to look up like, who else is doing it? We got all kinds of schools and we're like, well, how are you doing it? How are you doing it? And they can just chirp in and say, this is what we found worked or didn't work, whatever. Saves everybody a lot of time. It has professional development in it. So that will be provided. And the professional development, I'm going to provide you, it'll be an online platform. You'll have lifetime access to it. So it's not just going to be for the duration of this project. And it's got all kinds of cool stuff that you will probably find very useful. The thing in it that we have people love the most, first off, there's a bunch of training from Maria Anderson in it, which is awesome, on how to make online classes and flipped classes, hybrid, all of them more engaging. The second thing is we've created a ton of what we call non-Googleable problems. So if you're trying to write problems that are a little bit richer and they're at different levels, be it algebra, trig, whatever, and the student can't just type it into Wolfram Alpha or whatever, they can't just type it into PhotoMath. We've got a huge bank of those. So you'll get access to all that. And then you'll have it forever. Okay, so these are the big milestones that we will go through in the intensive that we do the first 3 months of this year. So next week, we'll start with all the onboarding, and I'll start you through like some different activities that we'll do, get you up to speed, how we're going to work. Then we move into figuring out your strategy for placement and for courses. So you will end up with a flow chart and a placement chart or table, however you want to call it. Those will be things that come out of this that you will get finished here. Once you get those, then we have to implement them. And there's the academic affairs side of the house and student affairs or student services, whatever you want to call it. And there's all kinds of pieces to that. There's approvals, logistics, programming, all this stuff. We go through that step by step. And so when we get done with the intensive, you got the plan and you know who's doing what when. And you can feel comfortable like, check this off. This is happening. Okay. A couple of notes with it. There will be some assignments in between some of our meetings. My goal is not to have tons of them. I want you to be able to have these meetings and they be the place where you get a lot of stuff done. because nobody has extra time. Okay, so, but there will occasionally be some assignments between work sessions. If there is a meeting that you have to have on your campus outside of our meetings, I will give you a detailed guide. It will say like, who needs to be there? What's the objective? What are the things you have to decide? What happens if you get stuck? It will walk you through so you don't have to wonder like, okay, we're all supposed to get together and do what? You're going to have a guide to help you. What decisions do you need to make? And what do you do if you can't decide as a group on how to go about something? Also, we have office hours. So I have optional office hours. You're going to get the calendar today for all of this. And if you're like, okay, so we were supposed to decide this and we just got to a point where we just could not come to agreement, bring that to office hours. And you can come and, or you can just email me. You can just like, Kathy, we're stuck on this. Do you have any ideas? The thing I do most day in and day out is problem solve for people. How can we creatively come up with a way to find a solution that, like I will call it win-win, that most people, as many people as possible, feel good about. Okay. All right. Why should you participate? If you're off doing email, come back to me. This is the best part. Why should you participate in this program? Number one, we are going to guide you efficiently through redesign, and we'll make it simpler and faster. You're gonna benefit from so many schools and all the research and the things. There's no fluff, there's no extra stuff. We're not meeting to just get to know each other. Everything we're doing is to get you further along in this process as efficiently as possible. Okay. Number two, we get to crowdsource. That's cool. You actually get to talk to your peers in other colleges, and not just, like once a year at MiMath for the faculty, or, for like if you have administrator conferences, you get to talk to people that we never have time to talk. It's carved out, it's on the calendar, and you know that you can talk to them. Also, meetings are always recorded. So if you can't make something, that is not the end of the world. You will have dedicated work time. So it's not like you're going to go to the meeting and come away with a giant to-do list and be like, when do I do that? We're going to bang out the work as much as possible at these meetings. Okay, what is that going to save you? More meetings and more emails, because I doubt anybody needs either one of those. If you're like my schedule, you got plenty. Okay, so we're trying to economize on the time. And the best is you're already going to be doing it. Why not make it easier? Okay. I mean, you've got to do this. The law says you've got to make these changes. Why not make it a more pleasurable experience and not make it painful? Okay. So that's why I'm like, I absolutely think you should participate. It's funny. Every group I work with will have some people are like, I don't need just one more thing. I'm too busy. Is this really going to help me? And then they get in it and they're like, oh, I'm so glad I did this. This made it so much easier. I felt like I had a safety net. I felt like when I get stuck on things, I had someplace to go, but I still felt like I had choice. So I want you to know that you still have choice in how you do things. I do not come in and give you a like one size fits all solution. So I want you to feel good about that. Okay, so let's start getting you some information. All right. First off, let me go get that link. I'm going to put it in. Oh, it'd be nice if it would actually let me do what I want. I will just do it this way. I'm going to put this in the chat. Hopefully that works. Yes. Okay. So this is the main link. I will give it to you multiple times. Save this link. So if you forget anything today, it's going to be in this document. Okay. So perfect example. I kind of have like an overview of what this intensive is. We're going to talk about the core team in just a minute, but I've got that information in here. We've got Ginny's link. So if you want to get updates, and resist clicking just yet, we're going to do that in just a second, but it's in here. If you want to know, if you want the slides that I'm showing today, they're in here. Okay. All the links that you need, we're going to build out a Google Drive. My team will build that out, and every school that participates will have a folder. Every link you need, I'm trying to put in here, one-stop shop. You don't have to try to dig for it. So this is the calendar through March. okay? Once we get past March and we get into the accelerator, it's 2 meetings a month, and I'll still throw in an office hour, okay? But it'll be 1 meeting for systems level things and 1 meeting for classroom level things. Your whole team does not have to attend everything in the accelerator. So I want you to know that when we get into implementation, there's going to be flexibility. Like if you can't make it and you need to send somebody else in your place, not the end of the world. For the intensive, it's nice as if as many people from your core team can attend as possible. And if they can't, then you take the information back and you meet with them when you guys can. We make it work, okay? So we did this, so we have 1 link, 1 Google link for all of these. I don't want you to have to dig and try to find Google links. I'm pretty sure if you commit to do this and you submit a form, we're going to have you submit, it's a spreadsheet. My assistant is going to be making, we already have calendar invites on my calendar, but we will invite you to all of these that have the Zoom link already on it. So that's one of the reasons we need to have contact information for you. We want to make this easy whenever possible. Okay, so that's the first thing. There's some dates. Why are when they are? Because that's when a lot of people have availability. It's not going to work for everybody. Not every meeting is. That's okay. Everything's recorded. Come to what you can. Office hours are optional. Will every meeting be 2 hours full? Not necessarily. Probably, or not probably, definitely, you will have breakout time with your team at every meeting. So you will have work time. I'm not going to sit and yap at you for 2 hours. As much as that sounds fun, I will not be doing that. Okay, so let's talk about the core team. Okay, so you're going to hear me use this expression often. So we need at minimum, certain people to be a part of this process so that we make good decisions. Because any of you have been in education long enough, you know at some point there was a decision made and you're living with the consequences of it. And you're like, who created this? Did they talk to anybody? Did they ask anybody for advice? That inevitably happens, okay? Even if you try to really think through everything, you can't think through every possibility, but we're going to do our best to avoid missing something, okay? So the way you do that is you have a cross-campus team. So we need somebody from administration. These are just ideas. All your schools, some of you are very large schools, some of you are very small, whatever. Think about who has been working on things. We need somebody from administration. It could be your CAO, Chief Academic Officer, a vice president, a dean, whatever. You guys pick what makes sense for you. You can have more than 1 administrator. That's fine too. You've got to have somebody from student affairs or student services. So it's excellent if you can have someone from advising. And again, advising is a make or break thing with redesigns. So it's awesome if you can have someone from advising. It's always great if you can get your institutional research, but sometimes, or actually a lot of times, they are understaffed and overloaded. So they can't necessarily always attend meetings, but anything you can get the data people in, that's helpful. But you need some student affairs people, and again, at minimum, someone from advising. Okay, registration is also great to have. You got to have math faculty. Okay, now some of you have huge departments. You can't have every math person on it, but that doesn't mean we're going to exclude them. We're not. And actually, shoot, I didn't bring that image. I should have brought it to you. For all the math people, if you've ever done the handshake problem and you've ever seen like the graph of, like if there's 10 people and all the different ways you can shake hands, it kind of shows you like how many connections there are if, in that case, well, if you have so many people and they're all shaking hands with each other. In a similar vein, if we've got 30 people and we're all got to talk and make decisions and work with each other, it's too much. It's overwhelming. Okay. So you need a couple of people from your math faculty, not everybody. Okay. How many people should you have? Ideally 4 to 6. You can have up to 8. It's just when it starts to get bigger than that. I mean, you're all professionals. If there's like, we really need this person, it makes 9. Well, then it makes 9. Then it does. It's just, you want this not to be unwieldy. And communication is a key part of all of this. Thank you, Gary. Communication is a key part of this. You have to share information back And it's nice if you don't have, oh heavens, I love it. I love we have math people here. It's just a lot of communication. So fewer people, but we need the right people. Now, who are the right people? Okay, so first off, again, I've done this a long time. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. It does matter who's in the room, but we cannot have only the people that are, this is gonna be amazing. Nothing's gonna go wrong. I totally feel good about this. You have to have some skeptics, okay? You've got to have the people that like to poke holes and go, but what about this? Have we thought about this? Is this gonna work? Now you can't have a whole team of them or you'll never get anywhere, okay? But you can't have a whole team of Pollyannas either. You'll also never come up with anything realistic. You got to have a mix of people with different perspectives and also different roles. So that's what you need to think about. And you got to have people that are going to be willing to attend and follow through. And if they have to miss a meeting, it's not the end of the world. It's just we need that the bulk of the team can attend. Keep in mind, you have the most meetings these first 3 months. They decrease significantly once we get into the accelerator. Okay. Also, when we get later in the intensive, we get deep into the weeds with the implementation plan on the academic affairs side of the house and the student affairs side of the house. That's the place where if you want to invite more people, have at it. You can bring in more math faculty, you can bring in more people from student affairs, and I highly encourage you do. Because when we get into the weeds of like banner or colleague, oh, you're going to want someone from IT, you're going to want someone from records, someone from admissions. There's all kinds of people that you will meet. They can come later when we really get into implementation planning. But for the strategy and for the bulk of the work, we start with our core team. Okay, let's do it. You can unmute or you can put it in the chat. What questions do you have? And then when we get done with questions, we'll go into, if you're interested, I'll give you next steps and links on what you can do. But feel free, unmute. What do you want to know? I'm very candid, so you can ask me and I will be honest with you. So.
Will you entertain my question at this time?
Absolutely, Gary. And thank you for doing the math for us.
All right. Yeah, I always use that example on the first day to get everybody's attention. No, I did work years ago with Maria Anderson, so you kind of remind me of her. So that's cool.
Love Maria.
At Muskegon, we're actually pretty small. We've done a lot in terms of redesigning the courses, eliminating prereq requirements. This is our very first semester. We're 2 weeks into it with actually teaching the co-req courses. The people who are doing it, which doesn't actually include me this term, say it's going pretty well, but we're not impacting that many students because, I mean, we have the co-req classes with, 4, 5, 6 people in them. Mm-hmm. And the target courses that are connected with those in our registration system might have 50 people enrolled. Okay. And I actually had a conversation with one of our deans before classes started. Well, should we cancel these co-reqs? And I'm like, no way. I mean, we told these people, this is what we're going to do. We have to do it. I don't care how many people are in those classes. So I really stood up for those co-reqs and everything. And I guess my question is this, after all that preamble, how do we get the word out to everybody about how we're actually doing it? Because the math people are okay with all this co-reqs. We've done all the background work of redesigning the courses and things, but we still have widespread, we don't know what you're doing.
Okay, great questions and totally valid. Okay, so one thing that I totally forgot to mention is many of you are further along in this process, and that's great. So I don't want anybody to think, well, it's like, well, this doesn't apply to me. We've already figured things out. I will say this, unless you have at-scale co-reqs, no traditional dev ed, and high success rates, everybody can benefit from this in some way. But some of you will not need to do as much as others because maybe you already have some things created. So that's one thing that's nice. You already have some things created, but they're not working yet. Okay, yes, and we will in the intensive be talking a lot about guided self-placement, Erin. So that would be definitely one thing. So my goal with each of those intensive meetings is first off, there will be documents, there will be things, we will have the videos. So someone asked, what if we can't do everything right this second? Could we join later? I'm going to keep all the materials and everything available, recordings, everything. So if you need to jump in later and use stuff and do meetings down the road, it's going to be available to you. So that's something I would still say, I would still try to have someone come to the meetings if possible, just so you know what's going on. However, so Gary, in your situation, the problem is you're not at scale. And when you're not at scale, it can be very hard to get those classes to run. And my guess is, because do you still have beginning and intermediate algebra?
No, we don't.
You
These
don't.
students are not enrolling in other like 0-level classes.
They're just not enrolling
They're
at all.
just skipping all that and taking the target math 100 level course.
There's okay. Well, then, all right. So is it, did you say you have guided self-placement?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
So
one
that
of the
might be,
issues.
we might have to look
Not
at
everybody
that.
understands what's been put out there for GSP.
Okay. So then that tells me, okay, you guys are pretty far along. But see, that's great, because then you can help people who have not even tried that. And you can say, okay, these are the things we're doing with guided self-placement, but right now this is the result we're getting. Like I know Delta, they presented at MiMath, and Jim Ham, who I think is on here today, talked about how they were doing guided self-placement. Those are the discussions we will definitely have. How do we go about this and get students to use it as best as they can? It's never going to be perfect, but we want them to use it. So we will figure that out. I don't know exactly the solution this second, but I know we can find it. That I'm confident of. Okay. Statewide national guideline for target success rates in freshman math. I don't know that there's a statewide or national guideline for target success rates. It's just what most people find is developmental courses often have between, or they did for a long time, have between like a 30 to 55, 60% pass rate. And for a long time, what we did was just try to make those courses as good as possible and get those pass rates up. And we did. There's a lot of work that happened to get them up to like maybe like 70%. We're never going to get to 100%. And I don't want to, try to claim otherwise. We're not. But we definitely want to dramatically increase them. Also, legitimately. I'm not asking you to give grades, reduce standards, none of that. Okay. Here's the issue. We've got to look at more than just a pass rate for a course. This is one of the things that we'll talk about when we talk about, like, what does the research say? The problem is when students enroll in DevEd, they don't necessarily take the next course and sign up, and they don't necessarily do well. And so we can have a target for pass rates. I love to see at least 60%, 70% is even better, 80, awesome. But it's also, what we're going to be looking at is what percentage of students complete a college level math course within the first 2 semesters of being at your school. That's what we're looking at, not just that internal pass rate, but compared to now. So if you're like, I'd really love to dig into our data now. If you could work with your IR people and ask them, can we figure out now, if we take a cohort and we run some data, like what percentage of our students who say start in beginning algebra, complete a college level math credit in 2 semesters, or those that start in intermediate, what percentage do? That's great baseline data, because that's what we're going to be measuring the bar against. It's how many can we get across the finish line legitimately, not just how many will pass necessarily each individual course. Okay. Yes, we will talk about high school GPA. We'll also be talking about different things, like a lot of you use ALEX. I've got a ton of schools that are using ALEX for boot camps and other ways to make these redesigns work. So we will have a big discussion about GPA. We will talk about what are these different tools. So I know GPA's placement and boot camp is something different, but my point is we will talk about all those things. How do we make them work together to make the redesign work on your campus? Okay. Additional algebra is gone. That's good. Your pass rates are strong. Okay, don't we want to limit the, yeah, we will definitely look at math pathways. When you start dividing students into STEM and non-STEM, now they don't all fall in those categories, and we know that. We've got technical areas and lots of other things. But one of the things that I will do when we work through the intensive, I will do with you guys is we'll look at different ways you can do co-recs. And one of the things I have you do once you pick the model of co-rec you want to do is we have like a checklist after that. Okay, have we served our highest struggling students? What about non-STEM? What about STEM? What about technical areas? What about high school students that we have partnerships with? What about the students that are headed to elementary education? We have to go through our checklist. Are we serving everyone as best we can with this strategy? So that's where we dig in and we will look at all these different pieces. And that's where it gets complicated. I'll be the first honest with you guys. That's where it gets, I hate saying that because you probably think I was lying before. I wasn't. I will just tell you that. I'm always honest with you. It is complicated. So that's why my job has been to keep notes as I'm working with schools, analyze patterns, and simplify the process so that you do not have to try to figure it out as you go. Excellent. Yes, Gary, that's awesome. You separated the STEM track as part of your redesign. What other questions? We'll go 2 more minutes and then I'll give you the link. So if you guys are, you don't have to make all your decisions today, but if you want to make your decisions today, we'd love it if you did. Because there's nothing, you're not out anything. You're only out necessarily time, but you're gonna have to spend time on this anyway. So this is gonna be time well spent. Okay, anybody else want to unmute or have a question in the chat? Okay, can we charge students tuition for 0-level developmental courses if they elect to take the courses and are not required? I'm going to defer to Jenny on that one.
I think that the legislation is pretty clear that you cannot, that students, in fact, are not supposed to be offered standalone 0-level classes if they're Michigan Reconnect students, according to the legislation.
Okay. Gary, well, I have my internal team that helps me with running all the operations behind the scenes. I think I have 5 people that are on that with me. In terms of faculty that I contract throughout the country, I have a pretty decent list, and Maria's on it. She's one, yes, I mean, it's funny, I'm gonna be talking to her tomorrow, talk to her every week, but I like right now, I've got a school, I've got a faculty member who's doing co-requisite stats for the very first time, and she is nervous. She's really nervous. Okay, well, I have a person who did co-requisite training for us, and we've got it in this platform that we will provide to all of you guys. He is mentoring her. I'm contracting him to mentor her all through the semester. So they're meeting regularly and they're problem solving. And he's done this for me with another professor at the school as well. That's the kind of thing I can tap into, faculty peers to help us with things. So I'm always growing that list. And I also have administrators that help too. Okay, so let's do next steps. Okay, so first thing, if you have not signed up for the MiMath reform updates that Jenny, the link that she gave, definitely want you to do that. So let me copy that link. Oh, she's already ahead of me. Awesome. Okay, so if you haven't done that, do that. And that, I believe, because I ran through that, I think when you go through it and click OK, it takes you to the intent to participate form. I think. If not, we've got that.
It should send you the reply that says, thank you for signing up. And in that reply email, there should be a link to click to go to the intent to participate form.
Okay. So that's the thing you've got to decide as a college. Do we want to participate in this? The main thing is I don't want you to feel like you're being weighed down by a bunch of things. There is flexibility here. Some of you need more accelerator. Some of you need more intensive. It's being provided. And I don't want you to be nervous about it. We're here to support you, not tie you down to more meetings than you have to go that would be beneficial. Okay, so if you decide to do that, then we have a really short Google form that you can fill out. Anybody in your college can fill it out. So let me Copy that. Put that here. So that gives us some contact information, but it gives you a chance to get a spreadsheet. So when you fill out this form, okay, so let's go. Okay, I guess I just have to do it like this. Okay, when you get to this form, the intent to participate, if you want to do it and you fill this out, somebody from your school needs to complete this. Okay, so I'm going to make something up. And okay, once you click submit, oh, really? Okay. Such a stickler for actual authenticity. Okay, so once you click submit, there's a link here to a spreadsheet. Okay. And actually, I'm going to put, when I get off here, I will put that link in that original document I showed you that I said I had all the links. I will give that link to you again, but I will put that as well there. So ITP link, I'll add that. Anyway, what this link is where you tell us who's going to be on your core team. So if you click this, it will take you to a spreadsheet that says the instructions. You can't edit it. It says you have to copy it. You're going to replace, make a copy with, say, Muskegon, okay, or Delta, whoever. And then you're going to fill in the names, the positions, and the email addresses for who you guys decide to be your core team. And I've got instructions over here if you forget anything, like this is who we recommend. Pick one person to be a point of contact, because there are certain times where it just be like, and it doesn't have to be necessarily the leader, it's just you need a one point of contact sometimes for various things. You have a second tab. If there's more people you want to include because you think maybe down the road when we get into implementation, you want to have them come, please add them. It's just going to make it, once you do this, this works, helps you and it helps us. Okay, my team will do all kinds of things with this. They'll make you a folder and add things to it, but also you will have this information, which makes emailing out a lot easier. Once you get done with it, we want you to be done by Wednesday, January 25th. Fill it out, and if you need to change it, you can. It's okay, but fill it out, and you're going to email it to my assistant Leah, and her email address is here, info@almeeducation.com. All of this is right here. You don't have to remember any of it. You're going to email that to her. That's going to allow us to know which colleges we need to start building out your place on the drive and get everything together for you to make this easier for you. And just to make it right here, we've got the first meeting. Just to remind you when it is. It's next Friday. We've got the Zoom link for it. And I'm trying to have links everywhere just in case, so you don't have to dig for them. Let's come back to the slides. Okay, so you're going to fill out that Google form. The thank you page takes you to a spreadsheet. You copy it, you fill it out, and you give it back to us by January 25th. Okay, first meeting next Friday, noon to 2 Eastern. We have one link for all of the meetings. And again, once you submit to us your contact information, my assistant Leah, she will send you calendar invites for all those meetings. We'll have the Zoom link in them. It has the Drive link in it. So you don't have to, again, be digging for this stuff. One more time, this was the document that had everything in it today. So I'm putting that in the chat again, just in case you came later or didn't see it. But that document has all the information, and I will add, oh, I already did. Or maybe someone else did, or I did, I don't know. The intent to participate form is already here. I love it when I'm ahead of myself. Or some kind sold that, so not sure. All right, I know we're at time, but I'm just curious, anything else before we hop off here? And this recording will go in the master drive that you guys will have access to. Anything else? Oh, I'm going to put my email address. I need to add that to that form. But if you have a question and you just want to email me and ask me, there's my email address, kalme@almeeducation.com. I'm happy to try to help you with something, or if you're concerned about something. Okay. I don't know, Jenny, did you have anything else that you wanted to mention?
No, I just wanted to thank you for, this was a fantastic overview. This is a lot of information. I know I apologize that this is coming, people feel like this is coming at you so fast, but we were kind of waiting because, we had this kind of legislation pending out here. And the fact that it did pass really kind of lit a fire under us to say, we gotta offer some help to people right now. And that's why we're working so fast. So hopefully a lot of you will decide to participate. I think I'm excited about this initiative and look forward to the next meeting.
Awesome. Okay, reach out. I'm going to add my Julie, I don't know that we'll have a second cohort necessarily, but we'll have all the information there, and there's still going to be meetings that you can attend. I got to think about that more and talk to Jenny how we could possibly do that, but you're still going to have access to everything if you need to start a little later. Oh, good. My goal with you guys is that this calms your nervous system a little bit, because most people are like, I'm teaching my classes, I got a job, I don't have time for this. So that's the goal, is that we're making this a little easier. All right. Thank you, everyone. We will be following up with you, and I hope to see many of you next Friday.
Sign up for updates. That's how you'll get more information. Bye.
Yes. Sign up.